Welcome to the Virginia Workers' Compensation Commission's presentation on an overview of the EDI training aids. Here is a list of our current training aids. We currently have 21. In this training, we will provide a quick overview of each and highlight some important things to make note of. First up, we have the Freud Key Event Matrix. This is a table of some common scenarios, which acceptable Freud MTC should be filed and when it should be reported. We also list for each Freud MTC some possible Freud and Shroyd MTCs that can follow. This should not be used as a final guideline as prior transactions should be taken into consideration. An example of how to use this chart would be find the event, employee accident results and medical expenses greater than $1,000. Going over to the acceptable Freuds, we see that a Freud 00 should be filed and it should be filed within 10 calendar days from notification. Following the Freud 00 down, you will see the possible Freud and Shroyd transactions that can follow. This training aid also provides the definition of major versus minor injury in Virginia and important information surrounding the Freud 01. This transaction will cancel the entire JCN, not the last transaction filed. It is important that if you believe a Freud 01 should be filed to contact the Commission's EDI department before submitting. You can refer to the Freud 01 canceled transaction training aid for additional information. We will go over this training aid further into the presentation. Next, we have the Shroyd Key Event Matrix. This is set up similar to the Freud Key Event Matrix, where the table lists some common scenarios, which acceptable Shroyd MTC should be filed, and when it should be reported. It also lists for each Shroyd MTC some possible Freud and Shroyd MTCs that can follow. Again, they should not be used as a final guideline as prior transactions should be taken into consideration. It is important to note that paper forms are required in addition to some of the Shroyd filings. Quick Code Reference List. This is the valid value details that are located on the EDIC matrix. We made this part of our training aids to use as a quick reference and to show only those codes in which Virginia accepts. The first page you will see MTCs, BTCs, OBTCs, along with some additional benefit and claim detail codes. The second page you will see full denial reason codes, late reason codes, and some additional claim detail codes. Employee ID. In Virginia, we accept all 6 employee ID types provided by the IIBC standard. This training aid gives a quick view on what those are. It is preferred that the Social Security number is the employee ID given. If it is unknown, the other ID types will be accepted. For assigned by jurisdiction ID, we provide the formula that should be used should one of the other 5 types of ID not be known. You will start with VA, followed by the 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 2-digit year of the date of injury, then follow with the last name and first name. Should the 15-character limit not be met with this information, you will then pad the rest with zeros. Reporting of attorney fees. This training aid will help when trying to determine how to report the attorney fees awarded to the claimant's attorney. It covers how to report when the attorney fees are the claimant's responsibility and how to report when the attorney fees are the insurance carrier's responsibility. One thing I want to point out being the biggest difference is attorney fees that are the claimant's responsibility is reported in the ACR segment unless it is a settlement in which it is shown as broken out in the payment segment. Attorney fees that are the insurance carrier's responsibility is reported in the other benefits segment. Each topic provides scenarios to assist with reporting it correctly. Helpful guidelines for PY transactions. This training aid provides guidelines that should help in determining if and when to file a PY transaction. It covers when the PY should be submitted and what information should be reported in each segment. A PY should only be used for 2 reasons: to report the initial payment of medical benefits on a medical-only claim or to report the payment of a commission-awarded lump sum. As you will see, it lays out the reporting of medical-only claims, awarded lump sum payments of compromised settlements, and awarded lump sum payments of permanent partial benefits. The Benefit Segment Training Aid covers what should be included in the benefit segment, some challenges often seen, and some scenarios on how to complete the benefit segment. This is a really good tool to use when you are learning what is required in the benefit segment to report your payments or have questions on what you are looking at in the benefit segment. Payment segment. As with the Benefit Segment Training Aid, it is a really good tool to use when learning what is required in the payment segment when you are reporting your awarded lump sums. It advises what must be included in the payment segment and the corresponding benefit segment, goes over some challenges often seen, followed by some scenarios on how to complete the payment segment and corresponding benefit segment. Duplicate JCNs and consolidations. This training aid goes over what a duplicate JCN is, and in summary, it is when more than one JCN exists for the same injury, goes over how to prevent duplicate JCNs, shows what the duplicate check is that Virginia implemented to assist with eliminating the majority of the duplicates, along with what to do to help eliminate additional work when a duplicate JCN exists. We then go over the consolidation process of what the Commission looks at, what to do when the consolidation letter is received, and last, we discuss some common pitfalls and the consolidations. 401 Cancel Transaction. We briefly discussed this on the 4A Key Event Matrix that refers you to this specific training aid. Again, the 401 does not cancel the last transaction submitted. It cancels the entire claim, and the JCN can no longer be used for EDI filing purposes. The training aid will assist with determining if the 401 should be filed by going over when a 401 should be filed and what to do in instances you believe the 401 should be filed, the 401 was filed, or if a duplicate claim exists. It also tells you what the notification of cancellation is. Moving on to the reporting of compromised settlements. This training aid defines what a compromised settlement is in Virginia and that settlements are typically the only payment that should be reported in a lump sum, aside from the permanent partial benefits awarded to be paid in a lump sum with a 4% discount. The training aid provides scenarios on reporting of the settlements for where one JCN is settled, two JCNs have been settled, three or more JCNs have been settled, and where one injury settles against more than one insurance carrier claim administrator. It also provides some additional notes about reporting a compromised settlement. Transaction rejection. This training aid can be a useful guide in understanding your rejection. An EDI transaction is rejected when it does not pass the edits applied by Virginia to the data elements. The reason for rejection can be found on the acknowledgement record. The Transaction Rejection Training Aid covers some common reasons for rejections, goes over the pieces of the edit matrix to guide you in understanding the rejection received, how to interpret the acknowledgement record for the rejected transaction. This section provides steps to go through when interpreting the rejection using a specific scenario. We provide steps in how to resolve that rejection using the same scenario from the above section, and then we provide some common error messages. Moving on to occupational disease claims. Occupational disease claims are often confusing to our trading partners because the date of injury and coverage dates do not often align, as say for an injury where there was a fall. This training aid covers what an occupational disease claim is, covers statutes surrounding an occupational disease or ordinary disease of life, common terms, which cover what the date of injury should be, date of last injurious exposure, and determination of coverage based on the diagnosis. It also covers the EDI reporting of occupational disease claims. Interpreting EDI reporting requirements. This training aid is helpful in interpreting the 3 IIBC reporting tables that Virginia has made specific to state reporting rules and requirements. First, we go over the event table and how to read it. Next is the element requirement table, where we show the data requirement codes, the O2 reportable change codes, and how to read each table. And last, we have the edit matrix and how to read it. For the edit matrix, you can also refer to the previously mentioned training aid number 12, transaction rejection. Another good resource is our recorded presentation on overview of the EDI reporting requirements. Acquired claims. A claim is considered to be acquired when a new claim administrator has taken over claims from a prior claim administrator. This training aid covers codes to know for acquired claims, timeframes for filing, defines what an open active claim is, as this impacts the necessity of the claim being acquired by the new claim administrator, and goes over some challenges. Trading partner registration. This training aid discusses the importance of registering as a trading partner when there are plans to exchange workers' compensation claims data electronically with the Commission. It covers terms to know, important information, and some common questions. One thing to point out is a trading partner profile should only be submitted for an entity that will be administering workers' compensation claims and sending electronic data via EDI to Virginia. If you are the insured and/or the employer, then your insurance carrier will be the one submitting the electronic data to the state, and therefore a trading partner profile does not need to be submitted. Denials. Virginia only accepts full denials. This training aid covers when a denial should be submitted for or SHORE, acceptable denial fields, and goes over some additional information you need to know. Employer-paid benefits. This training aid discusses the specific employer-paid MTCs and BTCs and provides additional information. One thing to point out is BTC 240. BTC 240 should only be used when the specific indemnity type paid by the employer is unknown. If there is an award on file, the benefit type is known and therefore should be reported using the corresponding benefit type code. Change in benefit type. This is the SHORE CB and is filed when the benefit type changes from one type to another with no gap in time. This training aid covers when to use the SHORE CB and reporting requirements, and when a SHORE CB cannot be used. Benefit ACR segment. ACR segment stands for adjustments, credits, and redistributions. In Virginia, we only take adjustments and redistributions. This training aid covers the acceptable benefit adjustment codes and benefit redistribution codes. It also covers reporting of the ACR segment that goes over what to report in the segment and how to complete the segment with scenarios for each of the acceptable codes. The O2 change transaction. The O2 change transaction is used when the claim administrator identifies a change to a data element or variable segment designated on the element requirement table. Virginia accepts both the FROI and SHORE O2, and what can be changed on each depends on the data element. It is important to note that if the change is not noted in the change variable segment, the change will not be considered accepted and may cause rejections on future transactions. This training aid covers change region codes and reportable change codes. It also covers what to know about the O2, like matched data and groupings, when an O2 can and cannot be filed, and how to report the O2 on a couple of different scenarios. Wrapping up, these training aids can be downloaded individually, or you can download our handy training aid packet that has all the training aids together, including a table of contents that provides each training aid and the content in which it includes. The training aids can be found on our public website. On the left-hand side, go to Electronic Data Interchange under VWC Departments, and the documents will be on the right-hand side under EDI Training Aids. Additional resources. The Implementation Guide. There is the Element Requirement Table, which outlines what is required in Virginia, the Event Table that outlines when MTCs are due, the Edit Matrix, which outlines the acceptable values, error messages, population restrictions per data number, along with the matched data and sequencing requirements. Then there is the FROI and SHORE sequencing table. We also have the EDI FAQs, and as you have seen by locating this training, we have additional EDI training presentations. All three of these additional resources can be located on the EDI Services page of the Commission's website on the right-hand side under EDI Documents and EDI Resources. This concludes the training part of our session, but before we end the presentation, we have a couple more things. Additional training. Is there a need? If so, what topics should we cover? Also, do you have any recommendations for new training aids or recordings you would like to see available? All requests for training can be submitted to EDI support with the subject line EDI training. Here is the EDI support team's contact information, email, and phone number. All written responses to EDI-related correspondences should be faxed or mailed. They can also be uploaded through WebFile file directly into the claim. Please note that written responses cannot be accepted via email. This concludes the presentation. We would like to take a moment to thank you for reviewing this presentation and hope that it was beneficial and provided you the necessary information to ensure success in submitting EDI in Virginia.